Israel is 60 years old now, and there's never been a horror film in Israel. So when I graduated my university, actually Aaron was my professor. And since the day we met, he kind of encouraged me to do some different style of movies, and eventually he produced my graduation film. And with the graduation film, we went to New York. And over there in Atlantic City, we decided, okay, what's going to be the next project? Maybe we do it together. And we decided to make a horror film. We had this really, really cool idea, which is the premises, and we don't want to talk about it because it will spoil the film. And after we figured that out, we said, okay, we have to do it. We're going to be the first one to make a horror film in Israel. We knew the title, it's going to be Rabies. We had a few gimmicks into it, and we just had to do it.
You have to say something about the gimmick of the film if you want to sell it. You just can't talk about a film that you have a brother and sister running away to the first. It sounds too generic. But if we have to say what's the origin for Rabies, we have to talk about the main problem in Israel, which is a good problem. We don't have serial killers in Israel. So when we decided to do the first horror film, everybody laughed about us. Oh, come on, what are you going to do? A horror film in Israel? There aren't any serial killers. It's not a big employment job. You know, they're unemployed in Israel, serial killers. So we decided to put that into our film. This is the basic idea that we came with for Rabies. What's Israeli about the slasher? What kind of slasher will live in Israel? And when you see our answer to the kind of slasher that would be living in Israel, you'll understand the comedic tone of Rabies, because it's not just a slasher film, it's a slasher comedy. It's like a slasher's nightmare. I grew up on Wes Craven's film, not only Nightmare on Elm Street, but the things he did before, Last House and The Hills of Eyes and all of that films. And what I actually liked about the films of Wes Craven is that the initial works of Wes Craven is that he didn't always thought that the baddest thing that could happen in a movie is the evil guy, is the bad guy. So our inspiration is drawn from the kind of directors that think that there is a bit of menace or evil inside every human being, the good guy or the bad guy. So for me it was like the exploitation films of Italy and Wes Craven. One film I hug with a lot of love is Hitchhike, which is with David Hess, which in Israel nobody ever saw it, and also in a lot of places in the world. But the idea of getting a couple into a car and then Hitchhike comes along, the brilliant David Hess, and then is not the worst thing in the movie. The couple is the worst thing in the movie. Their marriage is the worst monster ever. And that for me was a brilliant screenplay. And when we wrote Rabies, I thought a lot about this idea that that not always the baddest guy, the worst guy in the film, the monster is really the monster, but the human beings surrounding it. So that's for me is the inspiration.
When we decided to do Rabies, we didn't thought of maybe it could be risky or maybe people wouldn't like it. We had a very good idea, and Aaron and I grew up on horror films and genre films, and it was I think it was in our blood to make a horror film. We didn't think about it all the way through if it's risky or not. We knew we had to do it. It was kind of a passion of us. And so we did it, and we were able to cast really, really good actors and actors, and it's a dream come true, but we knew we had to do it. First, we approached Israel's most popular actor, named Lior Ashkenazi. He played in a lot of good films. Most of them are really art house films, and he is an amazing actor. And when we approached him, he answered us, "Oh my God, I've been waiting so many years to make something like that," because it's a very physical movie and it has a lot of action scenes and horror scenes. And after that, we approached few more very famous actors, and then it was like a domino effect. Everybody wanted in on this very, very small project, kind of an indie project. We didn't have a lot of money, so all of the actors really volunteered to be in this film.
The reason we don't have horror films in Israel are two. One, people say that because of the political climate in Israel, we have enough troubles we have enough terror in our streets, and with the conflict with the Palestinians and all the countries around us, so people will not want to see more bloodshed on the screen, which is true because not a lot of horror films from all around the world succeeds in Israel. Nobody goes to watch them in cinemas. Yes, on DVD, but not in cinemas. So that's one trouble we have with horror films in Israel. The other one is, like I said, we don't have serial killers in Israel, so it's a bit fantastic for our audience to believe that that kind of films can be, or this kind of situation can be happening in Israel.
We are really privileged to be here. Aaron, since the day the movie has been made and distributed and we started the festival circuit, he always told me, Navo, there is one festival we really have to be. The crowd is amazing, the crowd is crazy. Let's hold our fingers, let's hope we'll get there, and it's like a closure for us. It's really a dream come true.